Coming to you from Farmer Dave's Kitchen here in Dracut, Massachusetts, I'm Stacey.
I'm Denise.
And we're here to help you prepare your share.
In today's VEGISODE, we are discussing a vegetable with a peel. Onions. We use onions in almost everything that we cook. They are a core ingredient, and if stored properly, will last a good long while for you.
Onions need a cool, dry location away from light. A basement, a garage, a back hall, a breezeway, or a pantry are options. Keep them cool, but do not let them freeze. Mine stay in the 40 to 50 degree range in my basement.
Yeah.
Also, keeping them away from light helps prevent them from sprouting. It's as easy as covering them with newspaper. Another tip, do not store them near your apples. Your apples give off ethylene gas, and that basically causes everything around it to ripen faster. You don't want these to ripen any more than they already are. You just want them to kind of just stay right where they are with this.
Yes, keep them separated.
So we're going to show you now how to layer them and to basically put them to bed for the winter. So you can just have an area with onions, and as you need them, you can run and get them. And
perfect.
You know, fresh onions are just awesome.
We use onions daily in our house.
Okay.
Basket, newspaper. This is pretty basic, so we're just going to start creating a few layers with this.
Now, if you don't have a basket, it's nice because of the airflow. You can use just a cardboard box. What I would do is you can usually get the full ones at the grocery store. I would probably cut it in half so you could do maybe 2 or 3 layers of onions in it, and that would be fine. Poke some holes inside, but the paper will let it breathe as well.
That works out beautifully. Yeah, so whatever you have, it doesn't have to be a basket. We just happen to have one here to show you. So we've already lined the bottom of this with a piece of newspaper. So we're going to go ahead and put in a layer of our onions.
That's good.
Excellent. Okay. And then you just want to go ahead and grab another layer. Put it right in there. It's just loosely sitting on top. Just giving it a little bit of protection from between the layers.
There we go.
Fabulous. And then we are just putting one more on top, and you're ready for storage. Easy enough.
You can keep going with your layers. I think 3 layers is good. And then if I have more than that, I'll go and I'll start another container. The reason that we're putting newspaper between each layer as well is if you have an onion that is starting to go bad, you don't have it transferring to everything. So it's kind of keeping it on that one layer, and it's newspaper, you're reusing the newspaper.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also keep 2 stashes normally. I have a bowl on my counter, which are the onions that I'm gonna use probably for the week.
Okay.
And then I'll have this in the back hall of the basement or something, and then I go and I just replenish my stash.
Perfect.
So I think
easy
that's
enough. Good.
Done with that.
Done and done.
Now, we are talking about caramelizing onions.
Delicious.
So first we're going to show you how to cut. And so I don't go and cut the tips off of my fingers. Denise is going to talk for a few minutes. So.
Okay. So we would add caramelized onions to almost everything. Maybe not ice cream.
They do have garlic ice cream. I don't know about caramelized ice cream, though.
Caramelized onions also freeze beautifully, and it's another one of those prep-ahead tasks that we love so much. Put the work in now, reap the rewards later.
Yeah, definitely.
So we're going to go through 2 different methods. So one is in a pot on the stove, and then your second is going to be in a slow cooker. Honestly, whichever you prefer, whichever suits your schedule and your lifestyle better. One's a bit more hands-on than the other, but they both work equally as well. So.
Here we go.
Got method 1, Stacey?
Stovetop.
Stovetop, okay.
So, Denise is going to tell how I'm going to slice the onions while I do it.
So make sure your knife is sharp, your cutting board is secure. The onions obviously are round, so they're going to be a little bit slippery once you remove the skins.
So these have more of the skins on them. These have a little bit less.
And everyone has their own way of cutting onions. For us, this seems to work out the best. So obviously Stacey's already cut the tip off, so you have a flat area to work on. This way it's not going to be sliding around. So then cut down the middle of the root end.
Fingers out of the way. Now, if your knife isn't this long, what I would do is go in with the tip part way, then go down, flip the onion around, and do the other side.
That's a great suggestion.
Okay.
So then we are going to peel. And you can see how easily that comes off now that the onion's been cut in half. Excellent. And then we're going to slice into half moons.
Yep. Get this one
Yep,
peeled.
get the peels off. And when we go to cut, we're going to make sure that we're keeping our fingers curled in.
Correct.
Safety first.
So it's on the flat side,
Beautiful.
not going anywhere.
So you can see how Stacey's curling her fingers in.
Then I'm going to go in.
Excellent. Now, the smaller the slices, the quicker they're going to cook, but take care not to make them so fine that they're going to burn.
Now, when you get to this point, it's a good chance you're going to slip because there's not that weight on either side. If you really feel the need to use this portion,
Right.
I would hold it like this from each side.
Yes.
Go in with the tip on one side, go down, flip it, go in with
There
the
you go.
tip on the other side and go down. And you'll
Excellent.
get that last little bit off without damaging
Without, yes, without hurting
Yourself.
yourself. Excellent. All righty.
So there's this,
Beautiful.
and I think that's enough.
Yep. Perfect. So you guys definitely get the idea.
So separate them into rings.
Yep. Separate the rings. And what we're going to do next is actually get these into a heavy bottomed pan. We're using a Dutch oven today, but you can also use a large skillet if that's what you happen to have. This process is going to take time, so if you are going to do this, you might as well make some extra.
So there's our pot that we already started.
Excellent. So now you started this out with about 2 tablespoons each of butter and olive oil that was already melted over the medium heat, and the onions have been added and mixed to coat. We're just
And
going
we're
to
gonna
add
add some more
additionals.
fresh onion there.
Excellent.
Tongs are great for this task too.
Great kitchen tool. We call them pinchies in my house.
Oh, they're pinchies? That's funny. So that's what we have about now. When we first started this, it was all the way up at the top, and it's been cooking down gradually. They soften and they slump. So this is where they are now. I'm gonna put it back on the heat,
Excellent.
and we'll just let that go.
Keep that going.
Yes. So we're going to talk about caramelization. What happens with caramelization? Basically, the sugars come out and they form little bits that get stuck to the bottom of the pan.
Right.
In the beginning of it, the onions are steaming. So when you have all that in there, the onions just steam, produces a little bit of water.
Right.
So then when you start stirring it, it lifts the bits off. As it goes further along, the bits stay stuck because there's not as much water in the onions. You're basically
That makes
evaporating.
sense.
So that makes
That makes sense,
right?
yeah,
So
definitely.
I have a pan here that we did. And this is a red onion. And as you can see, we've got some brown bits there that are stuck.
You can see that.
Okay. So at this point, if you were just doing a small pan of onions that you were going to put on a burger or a sandwich or something
Right.
like that, if you want to lift those bits up, it's also called fond. That's the fancy
That's very fancy.
cookie term, but I like this. Brown bits.
Brown bits.
works. So if you want to lift the brown bits off, you're just going to add either a little stock, a little water, a little wine, anything like that, and that takes them off.
Nice.
Mix it all in, put it back on the heat,
Okay.
let whatever you added for a liquid evaporate,
Right.
and then you have caramelized onions to add to whatever you want to
Nice.
add to. So that's that.
Those are gorgeous. Red onions are so pretty. So let's talk about pans. So this particular one was a non-stick, which you may find is not going to get as many of the brown bits,
Right.
But still absolutely works. Cast iron and stainless steel are fantastic for this task, and that's honestly what we like to use.
Which is what the Dutch oven is. It's an enameled cast iron.
Exactly. So once the onions are going, depending on your stove, you may need to adjust to your heat. You know your stove better than anybody does, so adjust as needed. You want this process to go slow, steady as she goes.
Right.
Check the onions and give them a stir every 5 to 10 minutes. Once you're sure that your temperature is exactly where you want it, you can then go every 10 minutes. I find that 3 to 4 large onions are going to take approximately an hour.
Ballpark.
Ballpark, yeah. So that kind of just gives you a little bit of a time schedule there, so you know the time to set aside for yourself for your onions?
So we decided, because this is going to take a little while, I went ahead and I cooked a whole bunch of onions, and I removed them at 10-minute increments so that you can see just what they look like as they go along. So we have a tray right here.
These look so good.
All right. So what's happened here is these are probably 10 minutes in. Not much has changed. They're starting to get a little warmer and a little more wilted.
Right.
They're still pretty solid. They don't have that opaque, so they're opaque. They don't have that translucency that happens as you cook them. This right here that's 10 minutes. This is 20 minutes.
Okay.
So you can see already some of those onions you can almost see right through. They look almost like a gossamer fabric. Kind of fancy, but
Very fancy,
you know what I mean. So this is 10, 20, 30 minutes. They're still really just starting to tiny bit golden, but not very much. It's just getting softer and softer at this point. So 10, 20, 30, 40 minutes, the change starts happening. You can see the golden hue that it's starting to get at this point.
Very nice.
Okay.
It looks
50
like
minutes.
tea-stained.
Yeah, that's exactly what that looks like. 50 minutes.
I see brown bits.
Brown bits and nice and golden at this point. 60 minutes.
Yeah.
This is really what you're looking for.
That's the sweet
That
stuff right there.
dark, it almost looks like we sprinkled it with brown sugar. This is just the onions. Butter, onions, and a tiny bit of olive oil.
That's it.
And that's it, and that's what it looks like.
And time.
And time. Now, something to keep in mind, you can, if you go and you blast your heat, and you're like, oh, my onions are brown though, I can do this faster. They do get brown.
Okay.
They get bitter though, because you're not coaxing the sugars out of the onions. So doing this the low and slow method is really where you're gonna get that sweet, sweet stuff out of the onions, okay? Now you can also caramelize any onions. I just go and mix and match what I had. I showed you the red onion that I did. I go through my onions and I pick the ones that are older because the older ones are probably gonna go faster. So I would rather caramelize them, get them nice and sweet, and that's what happens with that. So we're gonna slide these out of the way. And we should probably check on the onions one time, right?
I think we should.
All right. I'm gonna put these here, just so you can see them. They're starting to get soft in just that amount of time that we talked. I can tell that they're starting to, I say slump, it just means that they're releasing their structure. So they're not, they don't look like an onion ring as much anymore.
That makes sense.
They're starting to soften. All right. Back on the stove this goes.
Here we go. So once they've reached that luscious sweet stage that we were just showing you, you can season with salt and pepper if you like. We didn't salt previously to this because it draws out the water. We wanted the caramelization process to happen, a dance, so to speak. Also, we like to freeze them unseasoned, and that way it can be adapted into any of your recipes. So. Seems to be a good way to do it. Once cool, transfer them into a tightly sealed container for the refrigerator, or you can also bag them into 2-cup measures for the freezer. We can show that, right? We can do that.
We cooked a lot of onions today. So these are the ones that are really caramelized.
They're gorgeous.
And you see that?
Beautiful.
Nice and brown bits as we say in there.
I love it.
So to do this, we have a freezer bag. I just closed it.
It's all good. It happens to the best of us.
So then, I know that if I fill this up, it's going to be a cup flat because I've measured it before. It's my spoon. Put that right in there. So that's 1 cup.
Excellent.
And that flat would be about 2 cups.
Nice.
So then, I'm going to close this almost all the way. I want to leave a little bit of an opening to get the air out. So then I'm going to push the onions in the bottom. So it's like a cigar right on the bottom, or a roll, okay? then I'm just gonna roll it like this, and it's gonna push the air out. Then I'm gonna close it.
Yes, remember to close it.
And then on this, I will write caramelized onions. Because once this is frozen, you're gonna look at this mass of brown something, and you're like, is it gravy? Is it onions? Is it gravy? So I just write caramelized onions on there, and then I'll put the date that I did it. Caramelized onions will be fine for probably 3 months in your freezer. Oh. After that point, they may start to lose a little bit of that flavor.
Yeah.
So, but this is perfect when the onions are coming in like crazy.
Right.
Freeze a whole bunch ahead of time, then you can put them on your burgers, in your meatloaf, in just everything, and it's a time saver.
Yep, your steaks, your salads, honestly, they go
One of my
with everything.
One of my favorite quick fixes.
I love it. Now that we've covered the caramelization process on the stovetop, we are moving to the slow cookers, the crock pots. If you have a lot of onions that you want to caramelize, but not much time at home, the slow cooker is your answer. I love using this method on a weekend night when I can let the onions cook overnight, and then you're there for the end portion when you get up in the morning. It's perfect. It's a very forgiving recipe.
Yeah, definitely, because it holds in all the moisture and everything like that. So if you wind up letting it go for an extra hour or something, it's not going to be a huge deal.
Very good.
So we cut about 5 to 6 large onions sliced. It wound up filling the crock pots. We brought an empty round one just to show you. You want to fill it maybe 3/4 of the way full, and don't go any higher than that, because after that point it just doesn't, you really have to be with it all the time to make sure that you're stirring it, because it's just going to be too full. Put in about 3 tablespoons combined of butter and olive oil.
Okay.
Let that melt. Put the onions in, then toss the onions, coating them.
Okay.
Cover, and you're gonna cook them for about 10 hours, and I know that seems like such a long time. You're cooking them on low, just like we started on the stovetop on low. Every so often, if you are home, give them a stir. It just allows them to cook more evenly. I usually start these 8 o'clock at night maybe, because I'm an early riser, so that gives them about 10 hours or so.
Right.
Then in the morning, we'll show you what we do at that point.
Sounds good. So at the 10-hour mark, the onions will look like, ta-da!
Hold on.
Delicious.
Yes. I'm gonna put that there.
They smell so good.
They do smell good.
So they are soft. They are lightly golden in color, but they still have a little bit of bite.
You know what? I'm going to do this so people can see. So they're good gold.
Beautiful. Okay. So now, if you want these to be a little bit darker, go ahead and give them an additional 1 to 3 hours with the lid ajar to release the steam. So a good way of doing that, do you want to actually show?
Good idea.
Does that work for you?
No, this works.
All
so
right.
I just take the wooden spoon, put it like this.
Excellent.
That lets all that liquid that's in there evaporate, and it will allow them to brown. They're probably going to start sticking to the sides of the crock pot at this point. So that's why I say use the 10 hours when you're sleeping. And then if you're home in the morning for a little while and do this, check on this about every hour.
Okay.
I think once you go 1 hour and you give it a stir, you're going to bring all the onions that are browned on the corners and bring those in the middle, and then do it again. I found 12 hours is usually pretty good. Now remember, each crock pot is different.
Very different.
So if you get to the 10-hour mark on low and you think it could go a little longer, let it go a little longer. And the same with putting it on the extra time with the top off. So it just depends on how hot your low runs.
Okay.
Don't do this on high.
It's as slow as you go.
That's really how you're getting the sweetness from the onion.
Right.
Otherwise, you're just going to get brown onions, and they're not going to have that sweetness. Exactly. And if that's what you want, great. But we want the caramelization.
We're talking about caramelization.
Yeah.
So this is the process.
So this is what winds up doing. So.
Great. Now, what it looks like with another 2 hours. So this is the 12-hour. Okay. So we're gonna. Oh my goodness! Look at these.
Those look great.
They do.
So I'm going to give you
what you did with that. Yes. That was lovely.
And that's actually a spaghetti.
Wow.
Spaghetti scoop.
I know, but it does a wonderful job of grabbing all of the little onions My gosh, this smells good. Could someone bring me a burger? Thanks.
No.
It's so good. So you can see that this is really browned up a little bit more, has a darker, richer color to it, and they even smell a little bit different, which is interesting from opening one to the other. This one's definitely more savory, more rich.
You basically smell that little brown bit flavor. You're not going to get the brown bits either as much with the crock pot as you would with the stovetop.
Right.
Now, if you really want that, this is the great thing with this. You get this all done ahead of time. You can freeze it or put it in the refrigerator. Then when you go to use it, if you want to reheat it, all you're going to do is take your bag or your container, have a skillet on the stove, get it hot. You might want to add just a tiny bit of olive oil in there. Put the onions in and just let them go on low again. And it'll reheat it, but then you can leave it and get those caramelized bits so you can still get it. So you did a bulk of your cooking hands off doing this. Then you have it in the fridge or the freezer, and then you can still, you know, so it's the save ahead the time thing.
That is really good.
Which I really love. Now the other thing in here that the crock pot produces is extra liquid. So even though this is caramelized, there is, and I don't know if we can see that or not, there is liquid in there. So once you pull out, and I usually use a slotted spoon, pull out all of your onions, then that liquid I pour off. That liquid has so much flavor because it's got the butter, it's got the olive oil, and it's got the onion juices. Don't throw that out. That's
gold.
Gold. It's liquid gold. I'm serious. So that I would pour into a container. Now you could freeze it if you wanted to, or save it if you know you're making soup that week. Add that to your stock.
So good.
Just imagine that. I mean, that deep, deep onion flavor.
Delicious.
So I think it's perfect. So as far as these go, you can just turn around and freeze them in the bags. Just like we showed before, roll them, mark them, and you're all set.
Perfect.
Now this technique and all of the onions that we've been cooking for this segment is now been building up to a recipe. So we are going to put away the crock pots. And we're coming right back with a recipe for you. Give us a second. Now we've spent this entire segment caramelizing onion. You have no idea what the kitchen smells like right now. It's crazy. So we decided, what do you think of when you see caramelized onions? French onion soup. This is what we figured we'd do. So in this pot are the caramelized onions that we've been working on. So it's still got a little bit more liquid on it, and I've really stirred it up and gotten all those brown bits off of the bottom. You can see them still on the sides. So at this point, we're going to add some more stuff.
Delicious.
All right.
Let's do this.
Flour. This is going to tighten everything up and thicken it, and we need to cook this out. So I'm going to sprinkle this in. And I think that's enough. You just want a light coating right around the top of it. Now I'm going to put this back on the burner and stir it. Basically, I'm stirring this flour in at this point, and we're going to let it cook. In a perfect world, this would cook for probably 5 to 10 minutes, I think, and that's going to wind up taking care of it. We're going to season it with salt and pepper, and also you can season it with some different thyme or oregano. I have some Italian seasoning because it's what we had right now.
That works beautifully.
So that's going to go in too. I just want to give this a minute to stir. So now the flour, any liquid that's in there, it's basically going to suck up the liquid.
Excellent.
Then you're going to have another stage of brown bits because the flour is going to stick to the pan. That's flavor.
Delicious.
Okay, now we have to deglaze. Now basically deglazing means that you're adding wine, stock, more broth, anything like that to try and lift the bits off. This is French onion soup, so we are doing
red wine.
Red wine. So this is going to go in now. Give it a good stir. Now this, you want to let it reduce for just a little while, so I would let this go for maybe 5 or 10 minutes at this point.
Okay.
And it's just going to intensify the flavor of the wine. So this is not a dish that if you see a wine, you're like, I don't care for that wine, I'm going to put it in. The flavor gets intensified, so if you didn't like it in the glass,
don't put it in your soup.
You're not going to like it in the soup because it's going to taste more like what you don't like. So pick a wine that you would drink.
Yes, definitely.
And it can be cheap or expensive. It doesn't matter as long as you like it with your palate.
Exactly.
So this is going to go in.
And as you're cooking, the alcohol does burn off. So we're really just getting the beautiful flavors from the wine.
And this red wine does have beautiful flavors.
Yes.
All right.
It smells incredible.
This would be, we're going to pretend it's come up to a little bit of a simmer at this point. Now I'm going to add the salt, the pepper, and some seasonings.
Okay.
Another stir. Now in another pot on the stove, we have 2 containers of beef broth. I got beef broth that was unsalted. That way we can control the salt in here. It's been heating, so when we go to pour it into the soup, it's not going to seize up the flour, hopefully.
Excellent.
That's the whole point of warming it. It doesn't have to be boiling, but warming really helps you. So if there are any bits of flour in there that you missed mixing in, it's not going to cause them to turn into one of those little balls of flour if it's hot. If it's not hot, then it could just seize it up. So that's why you do it.
Something new every day.
So here we go.
Okay, so beef broth in.
Very carefully. And this is 2 containers of beef broth.
Excellent.
And that goes.
When do we get to eat this?
Very soon. Because this is VEGISODE, you know that we always have one in the wings waiting.
Magic of VEGISODE.
Now I'm going to cover this up just to bring it up to temperature because I want to bring it up to a simmer. So initially it may come up to a boil, but then knock it down to a simmer.
Okay.
You want to let this simmer for 45 minutes.
Got it.
And I know that seems like a long time. It's what I simmer it for.
No,
you might be able to do it less than that, but I just think it adds, like, everything gets combined, does a little dance. It's really kind of nice. And through the magic of television, we have one that's ready.
Excellent.
So. And these cast iron enameled pots are awesome for making soup like this in, just in case this is hot.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness.
Here we go.
That smell is incredible.
How good is that?
Wow.
Nice and rich.
Beautiful.
Nice and deep because the onions were caramelized, then the beef broth, then the red wine.
That's delicious.
So, you want to tell them about what we're going to put on top?
Yes. So we used some bread. We just made, cut these up, put these in little cubes, and then we did a beautiful Gruyere cheese. Is that how you pronounce that? Okay. So we then melted the cheese on these. Now this was a little trick or a tip from our CSA manager, Elise, because once you've eaten the top few and you keep eating your soup, then you can put more on.
Because usually when you get French onion soup, you may only get one big crouton on the top.
Right on the top.
This allows you, it's kind of like replenishing the marshmallows when you have hot chocolate and you want more marshmallows. It allows you to replenish your cheese-covered croutons.
Okay, this is really fun that the cheese is all melted. All right.
All right, now this is tasting time. Tasting time.
Spoon.
There's yours.
All right, I'm gonna let you dig in first.
Of course,
It is really hot.
This is like rocket hot now. I may wind up burning I won't be able to taste anything else today.
Be like, that's it. She's done.
Hot.
You're like, yep, it's hot.
The onions have been cooking so long, they just about dissolve in your mouth. And I really like that red wine and that.
What a difference that makes.
That's really, really
my
good.
goodness.
All right, I'm having a crouton. So those croutons, if you have leftover bread that you think is stale and you threw it in the freezer, what a great way to make the croutons and then put on top of the soup. Don't get rid of it.
That's delicious.
I'm having another one.
Do it. And the cheese has a little bit of a touch of the salt, which is nice. So you're getting that little bit of salt with the soup, which is nice. So I'm glad that we went with the non-sodium broth. I think that was a really nice.
You really taste the cheese.
You do.
And the Gruyere has that nuttiness just as part of the cheese.
That's
and that
perfect.
actually cuts through all the other flavors. So there's a lot going on flavor-wise, but you can still taste the individual ingredients.
That's
so
amazing.
This is really good.
This was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be.
It really was. Now, keep in mind, all those caramelized onions, so if you have a whole bunch in the freezer and you're like, I need to use them, reheat them in here. Get them up to temperature, do the flour, the wine, the broth, and you can even make a small quantity for yourself. So if it's just you don't have to make a huge pot of soup like we did. Take them out of the freezer, make your own small thing.
Your own
I mean,
individual size.
Individual size
French onion
of French
soup?
onion soup. So we hope you like it. We hope you gave you good ideas. And go make some soup.